We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
David. David wants to clarify that you always intended... We have to call that other guy David Jack now. Sorry.
There's too many nicknames for me to remember.
You don't have to remember them. Just want you to write them down, whatever. Remind us. If we give you a nickname, you're going to have to remember it yourself. We can't be responsible for this nonsense. David wants to clarify that he always intended to have a screen on the wall with the... Oh, this is the guy with the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is a guy, if you remember for last week, whose screen was almost floor to ceiling, and he had his frame set up, and the center channel is kind of like about a third of the way into the screen from the bottom, almost halfway there. Anyways, okay. So we'll throw some pictures up here in a second here. Anyways. David wants to clarify that he always intended to have his screen on the wall with the fuse box and the small window to sit 14 feet away from that wall. He had initially thought of making a baffle wall, but with this non-acoustically transparent screen covered the entire wall, he doesn't think there'd be much point to that now. You can always get a different screen. He'd still like to make use of his 135-inch screens somehow, and he'd like to put up the top edge of the frame right against the ceiling so he can still have about 10 inches below the screen where his center speaker could go. He tried putting his BenQ HT2050 projector on a coffee table 13 feet from the front wall and found out by tilting the projector he can get the image to fill the screen frame. Since that worked out, he tried simply holding the projector upside down above his head close to the ceiling. He's able to get the top of the image even with the top of the wall, and since there's a light fixture on the ceiling, he was even able to have the projector about 15 inches below the ceiling while still having the top of the projected image hit the top of the wall. So he's confused. We said that he need a flush ceiling mount, in that we said that there would be no way to avoid having the top edge of the image be several inches lower than the ceiling. Since angling tilting the projector works, why does the projector need to be above the top edge of the screen? There's a thing called keystoning, my friend. And what this is think of it this way. When you angle your projector, okay, say you're angling it up, the bottom of the screen, right, is going to be narrower than the top of the screen because it's shooting at an angle instead of directly straight forward. So when that happens, there's only one real... Well, there's two solutions. One is overshoot on the top and just live with the fact that you've got stuff cut off and everybody's a little bit weirdly stretched out at the top of the thing. Or you use keystone correction in your projector, which basically allows you to straighten those lines again using a digital processing thing, basically.
Yeah, it's a form of scaling, really.
Which is fine, except that you're now taking an image that was 1080p when it came out of your Blu-ray, went to your projector 1080p, was coming out of your projector 1080p, and now you're trying to scale it with your projector. Inherently, this is going to add at least the very least the possibility, if not the actuality, of some sort of visual artifacts.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. He sent an image where he's showing, this projected image completely filling the frame. I'm not exactly sure the scenario whether he had the projector down low or up high, but you can actually see in the image where up at the top of the frame,
it's wider.
Well, actually, in this case, it's the bottom that's wider, so it's keystoned downward. So this would be with the projector having tilted down, because here in the image the frame is sitting on the floor. So it looks as though he's tilted the projector down a little bit in this case, and you can see that at the top, the image is completely within the frame of the screen, but at the bottom, it's overshooting. There's some light spilling out at the bottom edge that you can see is going beyond the frame and hitting the wall. So that's that keystone effect. Now, I want to stress, because in this particular case, if he wants to put his frame right up against the ceiling, now the frame itself is about 3 inches thick, so the top of the screen itself is going to be 3 inches lower than the ceiling, in this case, just making up for the frame. Now, we recommended a projector ceiling mount that's only 2.5 inches tall, and then there's some height of the projector because we have to get down to the center of the lens. And then there's another 3.5 inches minimum where this particular projector, this BenQ HT2050 that he's using, has some lens offset. So all total, if the projector were ceiling mounted completely level, the top edge of the image would be about 8.5 inches below the ceiling. So realistically, what we're talking about is tilting it enough to raise the top edge of that image about 5.5 inches. That might not be the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like just leaving it alone. You'll get a little bit of keystoning, that's unavoidable, but it might be so slight an amount of keystoning that what is spilling out is still just hitting the black frame, and you really never see it. And you're not gonna, like, your eye is not gonna notice a very slight geometry distortion like that. So he's not wrong. Tilting the projector just a little bit is absolutely not the end of the world. If it makes it work, I would be fine. And even though it was an ultra low profile mount that we recommended, it still does have the ability to tilt as much as, I think it was 10 degrees because it's such a low mount. But you wouldn't need 10 degrees of tilt to get what he needs to do. So this actually could be a very realistic solution. You'd still want the projector mounted as close to the ceiling as possible. If you dropped it down 15 inches, you'd have to tilt it a lot to get the top of the image back up, only 3 inches down from the ceiling. So a drop here doesn't work. You're basically going to have to get rid of that light fixture. That's about the only. I mean, he said he's doing some electrical work anyway.
I got to get rid of my ceiling fan. The light fixture is too low on it. I took the glass off of it, and that helped. But I need to get rid of the entire light fixture so I can raise my screen as much as it needs to be raised.
But he's absolutely right that tilting it, just because if you're talking 5 inches, tilting it that much could absolutely work just fine.
So he says overall he's wondering how we figure out where the projector needs to be placed. Isn't the default just having the lens be even with the center of the screen? Your manual should have had, basically, if not, mine had a diagram on everything that tells you basically, there's different settings. You set it for, mounting on a tabletop, which means you're towards the bottom of the screen and it's going up. Mounting in the center, which is also an option, with some projectors, or mounting upside down. And which just basically is the same as mounting on the countertop, except you flip it over and some of them have the mounting on its flat, but having the screen image go lower.
Yeah, having it on a high shelf behind you or something. Say, there are several projectors where the default is the center of the lens would start out at the center of the screen. There's lots of Epsons that are like that.
Yeah.
You'll typically find that being the case on projectors that have lots of lens shift. They give you lots of range to adjust the lens, but it is not the case in this BenQ HT25. There is a diagram in the manual. It's very confusing. Because they give it in terms of percentages of screen height.
Right.
And it's like, what the heck does that mean? But they do show a diagram where they have the projector just basically on the floor, and then they show it firing straight forward so that it's making a 90-degree angle with the wall. And then they're showing that the bottom of the projected image will be a little bit above that. It'll be, so whatever the height of the image that you're projecting, so let's just say you're projecting an image that's 50 inches tall. It will be 5% of that image height above the straight ahead 90-degree angle. Or if you flip it upside down and mount it on the ceiling, it will be 5% of the height of the image lower than the straight ahead 90-degree angle. So that is described in the manual. And, it's confusing as heck if you're not super familiar with projectors. It's like, why isn't there some standard across the industry? Unfortunately, there just isn't.
There just isn't. This kind of answers your next question, which is, if he upgrades his projector in the future, could he get one that doesn't need to be tilted? Perhaps even something that could be placed lower, or an extended mount that would clear the light fixture. Seriously, dude, you're going through a lot of trouble to save this light fixture. I don't understand why we were so attached to it, but I mean, clearly this means something to you, so that's fine. But if you're going to upgrade your projector and everything, it's clearly the case that you can find stuff with tons of lens shift that would give you this.
Oh, yes.
All you have to do is look in the manual beforehand, or do a little bit of research, and they'll tell you how you can place this thing and make sure that it fits within what you want.
Oh yeah, there are plenty of projectors where the lens of the projector could be within the boundaries of the screen.
Yes. And
still fill the whole screen. There's lots of the projectors can do that. Yours, the one you currently have, the BenQ HD 2050, cannot.
Ain't one of them. So there's your problem right there. On the audio side, he's ordered several 2 by 4 inch bats or feet.
Foot.
Foot.
Yeah,
I
2
don't
foot
know
by
what-
4 foot.
I'm getting tired. Bats of Roxol rock wool insulation. 11 yards of acoustically transparent fabric from Acoustimac. He's planning on making 8 absorption panels 4 inches thick. And since since the ceiling is only 82 inches high, he was thinking they could be floor to ceiling. Do we like that plan? Do we think he'll need more panels? I don't know about the more panels. Let me look at this thing again.
Panels don't need to go floor to ceiling.
They don't. I mean, it's not. I mean, they don't. They don't. But at the same time, it's not exactly like it's hurting anything to go floor to ceiling either.
No.
It's kind of necessarily. It's kind of a waste. I
He
guess.
could potentially make more panel, like the 2 foot by 4 foot size. I'm like, there you go, just leave it.
Yeah, that's what most
Like,
people do.
Yeah, if you were making it floor to ceiling, that's an uneven, because it's a 6 foot 10 inch ceiling, so that's an uneven. Like, you'd have to cut things strangely. I mean, I guess you could make 6 foot tall panels, but then that still isn't technically floor to ceiling. So I
I think
wouldn't
he's
bother.
looking for like that column look. I think it would look nice.
Yeah,
In which case,
That's true.
there's nothing wrong with that. You still want to place them at the first reflection points if you can of the speakers, the main speakers, which are they even 4 inches off that side wall? It's awfully hard to see in the picture I'm looking at right now.
it's close.
It's awfully close on that right side. So you definitely want to put something right near that right front speaker for sure. And then the other ones, kind of do whatever, I guess. It's not really, I would put
How helpful.
I would, well, I mean, those are the most important ones. I don't know where he's going to put these things so that I would definitely put some behind the couches so that, whatever kind of wherever the speakers are firing.
That's his next question, because he had a plan in mind for what he was
Oh,
going
right.
to
Wait a
do.
second. I didn't get okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Where should he place the panels? He was thinking 2 on each side wall close to the front left right speakers, 2 on the back wall, and one on each side wall right beside his seats near his surround speakers. Anything we would add or change to that? Nope. I like it.
I mean, that would be fine. The only thing I might do is the ones that are going to be directly to the sides of your seat, if you want to put them on your ceiling instead. But that's, I don't know.
What about
4
the
inch thick
corners?
panels
Why don't you build a corner trap while you're doing all
corners?
this?
Yeah, you could. I mean, they're basically going to be in his front corners already anyway, just because of the way things are set up. But you could put them in the rear corners.
Yeah, there's that.
Because having them directly to the sides of your seat isn't going to do a ton.
No, it'll absorb
not much. That's
just some stuff bouncing around the room. But if you can
Yeah.
have them in that right back corner back there, you can build yourself a floor to ceiling
Yeah.
base trap right back there. The chunk traps. Google chunk traps.
Sure.
And those basically you cut triangles and you just stack them floor to ceiling, and then you wrap some fabric over it, and that's a nice big base trap for you back there.
Yeah.
That's one thing I would recommend. But what you're saying is fine.
Yes.
Basically, if
Oh,
you
yeah,
hit the first reflection points, you put some behind your head if you can. Like in my room, I can't, but you put some behind your head, I'm happy.
Yep.
Everything else is just gravy. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.